Welcome to A Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach with Mark Gellard and Candy Reid, sponsored by the ERT 300. Well, hello everyone. Delighted to say that Mark Gellard is alongside me, Candy Reid, and we're also joined by a special guest, one I've been trying to get for a long time, in Philippe Dehaes. Philippe, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Candy. Hello, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming.
And now, Philippe, we met in Beijing briefly, which was nice because obviously I've been sort of back and forth with you on LinkedIn. And I always look at your posts. I actually managed to slightly whack your player, Greet Minnen, with a tripod holder, which was slightly embarrassing. So I did apologize, but and she was very, very kind about it. You've been working with Greet for a little while now. If you could just explain how long you've been in professional tennis, your routes to the top, and why you work exclusively, it seems at the moment anyway, with WTA players. That would be a great start.
Well, long story short, I'm 53 now, and I've been coaching since almost 30 years. But I started like a tennis teacher, very basically my first 10 years in tennis club with the kids, education. I went through all my classes because in Belgium we have quite good education class for coaches. We had 3 levels. So I did all those classes, and but I had always the willing to travel and to go on the tour, because I tried to be a player, but very, very bad level. And I really understood very quickly that if I want to go there, my only chance was to go through the coaching. So I start with the boys, actually. I had a few good players from Belgium. I will give you a few names, like Xavier Malisse, My first player was Christophe Ligon. We worked 6 years together, which is quite long. But we had a very, very beautiful journey. He was 500 ATP, and we finished, he was, I think, 32, 33 ATP. Then I had Christophe Rocus, Xavier Malisse, as I told you, a guy maybe you don't know, Gilles Elsener.
Okay.
And then I did approximately 10 years with the guys, and then we were waiting for our first daughter. At this time, I stopped to travel, and I worked for Justine Henin Academy. It was in 2008, where she just bought the club, and she wanted to build like a tennis academy. So I entered like a technical director for her, 2 years. Then I moved, create my own academy. And then I started to work with young kids again, and then some girls. And I started with Marina Zanevska because she entered my academy. So after I met Dasha Kasatkina, but in junior. So I traveled a little bit with her in junior when she won the French Open. Then she went for another solution, then she came back after. And then it's like this after Marina Zanevska. A few years with Dasha Kasatkina, then Kaya Chauvin, and today a little bit also Elise Mertens, and now today with Greet Minnen. And we're going to start our 3rd year.
Mark.
Hey, Philippe, thanks again for joining us. And I wanted to ask you from a coaching side, what two parts. One, what is your coaching philosophy? And 2, how has it changed over the years since you started on tour?
I don't have any method. I think I will never write a book because I don't really believe in method. Because for me, coaching, it's about the first for me main goal. It's to understand the person who are in front of you. It's a human relation for me. Before to be a tennis player, it's a woman or it's a man or it's a young girl or a young boy. But so I will not talk about method because everybody is different. I have been working with girls from Russia, Central Europe, from Russia, from Europe, Monica Prick also. So all those girls were completely different education, different relation with the coaches and the parents. Very complex situation. So I really believe that my philosophy, it's always to start with a white page, for sure, and to have the capacity to really enter the head and the heart of the player to understand how she's working. I don't know if it's exactly the word. And before, when I start, I was not like this. I believe that the method was the key. So about the discipline, about the way of playing, about what I'm thinking. I thought before that my knowledge and my thought were more important than what the player would like to hear. If you understand what I mean. Today I changed completely. I think it's coaching. It's the capacity to hear, and especially when the player is not talking. It's the capacity to feel. It's the capacity to improvise. It's to have this. I'd love to find exactly the good word in English,
Je ne
but
sais quoi.
you have my idea.
No, I understand. I understand for sure. And so I suppose that the sort of the second part of that was, for me now, as you're working with Greet, obviously we're coming into the end of the season. Off season is about to start soon. What's your plans in the off season? Where are you training, and how is the start of next year looking for you guys?
Well, the challenge for me, it's not enter in the routine. So it's always, as a coach, my goal is to bring something different when we start the preseason. So the funny I don't know if it's funny, but actually every time she starts the season in Australia, she don't win any matches. I think she never win a match in Australia since like 3-4 years, because she's doing always the same thing, which is she likes to be in Belgium for the preseason, because it's actually the only moment where you can be there at home. So we had a good discussion about that, and she came with this idea to say, okay, maybe I should change something, because if I want to go to Australia and try to win at least one match in my life, maybe I should change my way of doing in December. So we decided to go to Tenerife for a few days. It's not too far. It's not super hot, but at least we will be outside. We have a good place where the court are the same, same Australian courts. So very good gym, blah blah blah. So good players over there. So that's the first point. The second is that for I think the last 4-5 years, she had a very short preseason because Fed Cup. Well, I mean Billie Jean King Cup. Sorry. A few weeks of holidays, and then the preseason was very short. Now, the decision has been made not to go to the Billie Jean King in China, which is not easy. It was not easy for her to make this decision because she really liked to play for the country. But first time now we have 6 weeks to build something, because today she is 90. I really believe she has the potential to end the top 50 for sure, but we need to improve a few points, and specifically physically. So on one moment we have to take the time, and she understood this, and that was also her desire to do it. So we will have quite a long period of practices, and it's very, very exciting, because it will be the moment to really not just to practice, but really build and improve and increase a lot of points, improve a lot of points.
She's such a talented player, isn't she, Philippe? Great, I think, brings something a little bit different to the court, in that she's got all the shots, but like you said, perhaps not the biggest power. I've commentated on quite a few of her matches. She does hit the ball very hard. I don't think you can get away with being a top player if you don't, but she has the drop shots, doesn't she? She has the slice, the ability to come to the net. Just tell us why you think that might be a little bit harder, or perhaps you don't feel it's harder for professionals these days who have all those plans A, plan B, and lots of arsenals, lots of different choices to their game, why it perhaps takes a little bit longer for those players to develop?
I think it's the capacity to dare to do it, and you're absolutely right. I mean, that's almost, I repeat the same thing every day. I mean, she has no chance for me to go on the top if she's doing exactly what the other girls are doing. She's capable to stay in the rally, to hit hard left and right, etc. But many girls are much better than her with doing these things, which is just bring the balls, hit. And Greet, she has, as you said, she's gifted in the capacity of completely do very different things. You're talking about the drop shot, it's about the slice also. She's doing more and more slice with the backhand. It's the capacity to follow more. Because for me, the philosophy of the game, it's if you don't attack, you don't miss. So we need to spend time in the I don't miss, which is I'm a solid player. I can move without to miss. But the main idea, it's not to stay there. It's to work the point to have a good one. And when you have a good one, up to you. Drop shot, go for a winner, follow to the net, do something with the ball. But you are on the baseline waiting the good ball to do something. And she do it more and more. The statistics show that she's not going enough yet to the net, that she can do more, but it takes time because she's 27 and it's only 2 years that she's hearing this kind of advice. But she understood this year that for me, that's the only way to be competitive. And for me, it's also a big challenge to not to change the philosophy, because it's not easy. It's not dangerous to play like this, but it's much easier to say, okay, you know what, stay in the back, just bring the ball back, and we wait that the girl is missing in front of you. No, for me, I don't believe she can win matches like this for sure. But if she want to go higher, she need to take more risk.
Good.
So
Great answer.
that's, yeah. And also, I think that's what people will like also to see, because I don't know if you agree with me, but we can say that 70% of the girls, they play the same way, right? They have one way to play. Now we can see a little bit with Sabalenka that she's tried to bring some stuff in her game, a bit more slice, sometimes drop shots. She's following a little bit more, and that's very. It's nice to see that even if she's number one, she keep going to improve and to develop her game. But you know what? We had a challenge beginning of the year. She started the year, she was 59 or 60. And the challenge was to say, okay, you're going to play a year without to go on the ITF tour, just WTA 1 year. And she did it. So she finished the year with a less good ranking, but she's a better player. She's 90, but much, much stronger when she was 59 in the world. So this year was very important year because she could stay there, surviving in the top 100, but strong. We never changed the philosophy. And a few moments in the year, we could say, you know what, maybe better to go on the ITF. But it's exactly the same philosophy as, okay, we changed the philosophy in the match. Don't go, just stay in the back and push the ball, expecting to win. So we take the risk not to do it, and it was a successful year, I think.
Mark?
Yeah, I think when I'm working with Magda, one of the things that I've sort of changed a little bit over the years is I used to like to have an A and a B plan, and sometimes even a C for when things aren't going right. But I've got to a point now where I feel like there is no B plan for us the way we play. I just want to do plan A better. So I've tried to eliminate having a B and a C plan, because I think sometimes having too many tools in the toolbox can be a disadvantage rather than an advantage. But in tennis is such a complex sport. You have to be good at, there's 100 things you have to be good at. And then to be a professional, you have to be great at some things as well. One question I had for you is maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you became, I would say, you had a viral moment online with your on-court coaching with, I think, Daria Kasatkina in one of the tournaments. And since then, they have actually, as you know, removed on-court coaching from the WTA. And I wanted to get your insights. I ask this a lot to coaches that are on the tour. Do you miss having on-court coaching, and would you like to see it come back?
I hate those on-court coaching, to be honest, because yeah, for two reasons. The first one, because the camera and so the people enter in this bubble of, in French we say intimité, and what happened most of the time when the player were asking the coach to come, the player has some difficulties, right? Had some troubles. So it's also showing it a little bit it's not about the weakness, but the fébrilité. Sorry, it's a French word, but it's fragility.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and it was for me not a good way to you were always watching playing suffer, and for me, I didn't like this. Point number two: tennis. It's about adversity. It's about to have the capacity to find solutions. And this is exactly a discussion I had with some coaches in Belgium. What we see with the young guys, but even not the young, almost a lot of players. I have the feeling that a lot of players believe that playing tennis, it's okay when you are up. When you manage, when you are up in the score, when you're winning, and then suddenly you're not winning. For example, you lose the first set, it's 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, blah blah blah, and then you see that attitude change, frustration, throwing in rackets, blah blah blah, because the score is the player had the feeling that the score is going away. But for me, it's all about this. It's about understand that it's not because you are ahead, it's not because that you are losing that you are losing the match. It's just a situation that you have to face, and it's the capacity to think, to adapt, to go to your plan B maybe, or to be better in your plan A, but keep going, to use your head, to open your eyes and to think, okay, I have some troubles right now, it's not working, what can I do to make the difference? This is about, for me, that's the way how I see the game. So when I'm coaching, when I'm sitting and I'm watching the match, I always hate is losing the first set or have a bad start of 3-1-4. I'm not thinking, oh, we are in a bad solution, maybe she will lose the set. I'm thinking, okay, maybe this thing is not working. I'm watching where the girl is serving, maybe hitting more balls there, maybe high, maybe etc., etc. So with the on-court coaching, you were quickly losing, for me, this option gives to the player to say, okay, just use a little bit your head. I mean, because it's the game also. So that's the reason I was not a super fan of this on-court coaching. And I'm very happy it's finished, but I also understood that everybody is talking, and we know that. I mean, coaching is part of the game, because so I don't say what happened for the moment. For me, I think it's a good system, which is when the player is coming, you can give 1 or 2 words, just keep going, maybe try this, try that, not talking, not discussion, a few words. That's for me more than enough.
Philippe, with your players in general, are you a fan of using tennis psychologists? Are you a fan of them doing meditation? Or do your players sort of stay away from that stuff and work on the mental side with you?
No, this is, well, and also to answer your question, Mark, I really went to this. I study a lot. I study sophrology, but I don't know if you have that in England, sophrology. So I finished my graduation last year. I really believe in that, because for me, the 3 pillar, it's about self-esteem, to keep the self-esteem. It's about motivation, always to find a way to keep the motivation for all the year, and it's about the focus, and the focus is to be here and now. But what can you do to stay here and now? Which tool can you use? How do you breathe? How do you use visualization? For me, it's, I will say, 70% of my job, and I do it myself because I had experience with psychology guys. Nothing bad, of course. I will not say anything negative, but for me, I believe that everything happened on court. And when I practice, I for me, the challenge is to be so close as possible of the competition. And when something happen on court or just after the competition, I think it's tough to call the psychology like 2 or 3 days after, or waiting to be back in Belgium to have a chat with the guy for something who happened like a week ago. You understand what I mean? I think that it's more efficient to treat what you have to face directly. So this is the reason I decide to actually to study the thing, and I'm reading a lot, and that's for sure nothing new for you. It's it's a mental game, that's for sure. And on this level, it's about this focus, motivation, self-esteem. That's my 3 pillar.
Philippe, let me ask you, just to respond to the first 2 questions. You said with the on-court coaching, you don't love it. I disagree with you on that. I really liked it, but it seems to me that most coaches agree with you. The ones I've spoken to, they don't like it. But would you feel differently if there was no cameras involved and no microphone? If you could go on the court without all of that happening, would that change your opinion of it? For me, not being the players, the argument I heard this week, Denis Shapovalov talking about this. For me, the argument of the players need to figure things out for themselves is not one that coaches should be on the side of, because for me, our job is to create as much value in ourselves as we can. So if we don't feel like we can help them in matches, I wonder sometimes why we're there. And in every other sport, you know, I've talked about this in previous episodes, they have coaching. So I really do like it. So I suppose my question would be, would it change your opinion if you could do it without we had the microphone on, the cameras in the face? Would you feel differently or still feel the same?
I think I will feel the same. But I what you said, Mark, it's interesting, and that's what I hear in almost every sport you have coaching. But in our sport, actually, part of the game, it's the adversity. That's the word, adversité. We say in French that you have to beat somebody, and you are alone to beat the and it's for me it's this is the philosophy of the game. You see, and we can change the rule. That's what we actually doing a little bit with the coaching anyway. But basically, when we see the game in the beginning, it's without coach, and it's part of the game. It makes the game 100% real. You see, doesn't feel, it feels stupid what I say, I don't know, but so maybe it's, and for me the argument to say, yeah, but in other sports you have coaching and you help players, and Mark, you know, your value, it's before and after, because before everything has to be done to prepare your player for the competition, and then the competition or the match is over, and then again start your job. Me, I really like to say, when the match start, my job stop, but it's not exactly like this. But when you start, I stop. When you don't play, I play. I mean, and then I unplug because it's like I don't know, like an exam at the university. Study, I help you, and then on one moment you go and if you miss, you miss. Okay, we continue. It doesn't change anything. You see. So maybe it's quite an old way of thinking. I don't know, but I like to. Yeah, for me, that's how I see the tennis. Actually, I don't know if you understand. I answer your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen. Most people have said what you're saying. I think for me is, if you also go back 5 years, 10 years, we didn't have electronic line calling. So that affected matches a lot with bad missed calls. But we bring that in because as technology improves and things get improved, I think the game is I think it brings a value to the players. I think I had this conversation with another coach on here, and he said, well, I think it was Taylor Townsend's coach, and he said, you know, he would like his player to learn lessons during the match. And I agree with that. but I feel Magda will learn a lot more by winning the match because I helped her, or if I was able to help her, and then we can still play again tomorrow, rather than I'd rather her, than losing the match today. I feel that a big part of it, I agree with you, before and after, but I think that during is also critical. And I think that for me, tennis is going to go in the direction of innovation. And I think that for me, we've changed rules in tennis from the electronic line scoring to no ads to super tie breaks. It's always changing the game. So I do like it. I hear what you're saying. So I do, but I do disagree. I think it would be good for the sport. And one of the things but I do agree with you with the philosophy of the psychology is, for me, the best psychologist the player has is the coach, because you're with her all the time. You're with them 24/7, right? You're in the plane, you're at lunch and breakfast and dinner. You know better than the guy on the other end of the phone who speaks to her once a week to talk about pre-match things or what happened here. I just think I think for me, one of the lessons I've learned is to make sure that you don't coach against your personality. So if you're a really happy, positive person, you need to coach that way. And same for the players. They need to really embrace their own personality, because I think sometimes I've made the mistake in the past of trying to make somebody that's in a sort of I don't want to say a passive personality, or not a very Candy. You got to help me with the English now. I'm the bad English speaker.
Outgoing, introverted.
Yes, if you're here we go. I knew it would come. If you're introverted, make sure you don't try to play extroverted tennis, I suppose. So I definitely agree though with your points there. I think that the psychologists have a value, but I'm not particularly sold on how big that value is.
You okay? I got your point, but I have also a question for you, Marc, because you
Sure.
are talking about the goal for us as coaches. It's to make the players winning the match, right? But every week you lose almost.
Yep.
So when I start with Greet, exactly 2 years, she was quite negative. She was suffering a lot when she was losing. I mean, I couldn't talk to her. She was going in the room, like a bit this kind of personality, like not accepting to lose the match. We talk a lot about that. I find the way to make her understand that the main idea, it's not about winning or losing. Of course, if you win, you feel much better. Of course, winning, it's the gas in the engine. You need to win, otherwise you become depressive and you don't improve your ranking, etc. But we know, I mean, if you go to a tennis tournament, you have 32 players. If you ask all those 32 players, what do you want to do? The 32 will say, I want to win. We know this. The thing is that you lose a lot. So how do you stay fit mentally? How do you keep the motivation? How do you keep the willing to work just a few hours after to lose the match, if you don't find the way to make understand that maybe there is something behind, just you have to win the match? I don't know if you understand where I want to come. When you have to coach on my level, which is a girl who, let's make it very simple, she played approximately 50 matches and she won 22. So she's losing more than she's winning. And and in the beginning of the season it was tough, because she took 5 times first round. Never happened the year before. The year before she was always on this ITF tournament winning everything, and now arriving on the tour, boom, losing. How do you manage that if you don't find a way to say, okay, you know what, maybe there is something higher, something bigger than just to win and to lose, but about the process to develop you as a tennis player, to make you better day after day, no matter if you lose, no matter if you win. to have like a long-term vision to say, okay, here you are here now, you want to go to this to this point over there. The travel will be difficult, you're going to fall, you're going to fail, blah blah blah. But how to keep the motivation if you're losing a lot of matches during the year? And that's for me that's for me the big challenge. So I don't care if she's winning or losing, really, if she respects what we decide to do. And then you have always something to win, because that's always what I ask her when she loses. After a few hours, I say, what do you learn today? What do you learn today? In the beginning, she was watching me like, but are you nuts? I mean, I just lose 2-2. I didn't win anything. I say, yes, you win. You won a lot of things. What? In the beginning, it was tough to answer. And then on one moment, you say, okay, you go deeply inside the problems you had to face, and then you find something to feed you and to give you the willing to stand up the day after and to keep going, to go forward. You see, Mark? So, and as a coach, for me on this level, that's for me the main challenge. And too often, because me, I see that a lot of girls are suffering when they're losing, a lot, and too much and too long. And maybe this is also a reason why a lot are suffering. We have those mental issues for a lot of players. Nothing has been done, I think, when they were younger, and maybe in those academy and the federation, to tell the players, hey, girls and boys, it's going to be tough and you're going to lose a lot of matches. So if winning, it's the only motivation you have, or if you try to escape to lose, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Maybe
I agree with you completely on, I first of all, it's a very tough job, what these players do, and you're judged every week. It's not like a traditional job where maybe you get a once a year analysis or evaluation from your boss. You're judged every single week and given a new number, an actual tangible number next to your name every week based off the ranking that tells you how well you've done your job. So it's a really difficult job mentally and physically for the players. And I understand. You said Greet took it very difficult. When she loses matches, it was really devastating to her, which I think for me is a huge skill in a weird way, because I think if I always said, you show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser. I think it's a really good thing that she's she doesn't enjoy the winning. Of course, it has to hurt. I think I would say could you have helped her avoid pain, for example, of losing those matches? And we're all in this situation. I'm not saying just you. I'm saying we've lost 10 matches in a row. For example, if you had the ability to do more on-court coaching in matches, or if there were things that you were allowed to do, as a coach, do you feel that maybe you could have had a bigger impact on her if you were allowed the on-court coaching, because we have the off-court coaching? And me as a coach, I want to save my player from suffering as much as possible, even though I don't always do a very good job at it. It's just I would like to reduce their suffering if I can. So
sometimes you make it more suffering, Mark.
Sorry, say again.
I'm just speaking on Magda's behalf. Perhaps you make her suffer a little bit more sometimes.
Oh no, I like to. I told her, she's suffering as long as it was me that caused it, But yeah, I completely get your point. I think there is definitely more to winning and losing. I also think when you're coaching a younger player, how you might look at that versus when you're coaching an older player will probably change when the clock is ticking a little bit more down at the older age.
Yeah, but I love to repeat, and I always, but no, I don't have to remember this thing, because she understood. It's to have the capacity to make the difference between what you are, or who you are, and what you're doing. So you are a very great tennis player, in the top of the world, maybe 70, but you have only 69 girls in front of you. You are one of the best tennis player in the world. That's it. 70, 80, 60, 90, doesn't matter. You are there. It's not because you lose that you lose this statue. This we say statue in French, that you lose
Badge.
this. Yes. So making the difference of who you are and what you do. You losing doesn't make you a bad tennis player or bad person or etc. etc. So coming back to your question, for sure, with the on-court coaching, you can accelerate probably the maybe the ranking, because you will help your player to win a few matches more, maybe. But one more time, I'm coming back on this. It's a journey where not only winning is the goal. Not only winning is the goal. The journey is to develop you, to become independent, to become a fighter, and to have the capacity to do it by yourself. That's the challenge. I can take your hand on one moment. Yes, as a child, I have two daughters. When they were falling, when they were young, I was always there. But on one moment, you become an adult and you don't need to. At 26, 27, but even younger. One more time, I'm sorry, Mike, I will not come out of this. If you ask me if I have a philosophy, the only philosophy I have, it's based on the vision I have of the game, which is you and the person in front of you. My job is to give you so much tool as possible, to make you so good as possible. But on one moment, because people are paying to watch you, to come and to watching you, not me. I mean, it's like this. And one more time, I love, this is one of the reasons it's super funny to watch the WTA tour, because how many times you have those matches who are turning, and sometimes Candy, you saw 1,000 of matches. Why? It's sometimes difficult to say. I mean, it's 6-1 to 1, and then certainly 20 minutes after the girl lose like six game in the row, and then
it's so true.
You commentate and say, and this is it. So that's for me the game. This is it.
I agree. I listen. I didn't want to make this about the on-court coaching. I didn't mean to go down that route so much. I just wanted to. I think for me as well, one of the things that I found is, obviously you're fortunate to have Greet and I have Magda. They're mature, they're experienced players that are obviously very good. I think one of the things I've found, though, more in the younger players that I've worked with, is the journey is very important. But if I want to be part of that journey for the next 3, 4, 5 years, I need results quickly, because it's a results oriented business. Otherwise, I don't get to be part of the journey on year 2, 3, and 4, because do you know what I mean? So they've moved on. So for me now, when I've, whether it's helping back in Florida when I'm home with younger players, or just seeing things over the years as I've been on tour, I've found that sometimes, whether it's the on-court coaching or something here or there that can help them maybe win that one extra match, it could be something ridiculous that I do, nothing genius, but something that gets them to win that one extra match today, gives you that extra time. It buys you that extra time in their journey down the road. I don't know if I'm making that point clearly, if you understand me.
Yeah, but you know what? If I have to choose between on-court coaching or education for coaches, because you're a professional coach, Mark, and you have knowledge and you have competencies. But I'm sorry, it's not always the case. When you see on the tour, how many guys are there, and girls who has huge potential, and then on one moment you see that nothing happened. I really believe that if we coaches have more information, a better education, if the coaches are learning, studying, and have more tools, girls will be more competitive also, you see. And then the quality of the game will go higher, and then everybody will be happy, the sponsor, people will come more, because the level will be super high. So I also really believe that to make those players extremely good during the match, it's also have the capacity to give them the capacity to do it. and it's about also coach education, right?
This is a great point. I agree completely with that. I know I'm going on, but how would you implement an improved coaches education on the WTA tour? What would you do to improve the level of coaching?
Just briefly
'Cause I
coming in
agree
there,
with you.
Mark, because of course we had in our last podcast, Philippe, we had Vlad Platanik, current coach of Lulu Sun, and he was saying a similar thing where he feels like perhaps the coach's experience and the players' one isn't quite up to par, and there should be more help for both the players and particularly the coaches.
Yeah. The first point, it has to come from the coaches. I mean, if you want to be a better coach, just take some books, read, go in. I mean, you have so much time on tour.
Yeah.
For me, it's impossible not to be a better coach if you travel a year with the time you have, hours in the planes, hours waiting for matches at the club, etc. The willing to say, okay, my goal is to be a better coach for my player. That's point number one. I think it's not exactly the job of the WTA to make those guys better. For me, it has to come from them. WTA has to improve a little bit la reconnaissance. You understand, reconnaissance of the coaches, because coaches are you don't have rooms, you don't have
So actually looking after the coaches a bit more.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of advantage. I think that they should take care a little bit more of ourselves. But about the education, I'm doing this job since like I started in 96, but as I told you 2 years ago, I say, okay, I cannot find the good person to help my players to become mentally better. Let's go. I do it. And I study. And 2 years and a half, I was coming back to Belgium, weekend at the university, study, exam. And I say, okay, I do it. I was so proud. And I see now the difference. And also, Greet, she will talk. She saw what I could bring to her in the last 2 years. You see? So if I have a message to those guys to say, let's go, guys, go to work and let's make this game better than what we see. You see, Mark?
I completely agree with you. And on the tour, there's a lot of downtime, like you said, whether you're waiting for matches or in hotels and planes and trains, etc. But for example, the Premier League, okay, as you probably know, it's one of the best leagues in the world. But the managers are required and the coaches are required to have coaching certifications, coaching badges, permits, etc. They just recently announced that on the Golf PGA Tour, that agents now have to be certified to be agents on the PGA Tour to gain access to player areas, to be part of all of that. Would you say that having something like that would be beneficial for us? So not just coaches education, but some kind of standard, that you're bringing a minimum standard to the tour. Because if you think about the top 100 players in the world, they've had to gain their stripes and gain their badge by competing long enough to become top 100, whereas the tour coaches can walk on there tomorrow. Do you think it would be a good idea implementing something similar to a Premier League system where coaches are required to have whether it's a coaching certification or at the very least some kind of badge that gives them access to be on the tour? Or do you think that that's not in their realm of responsibility?
Yes, that's for sure. No, if there is, I think, one way, but it's impossible to go to this point. It's to say that, okay, as you said, WTA may have recognized like 15, 20, 30, 40 guys or women, of course, who has the level and the certification. And those people, they are certified by the WTA, even paid by the WTA if they are full-time coaches, which is so the girls, they can shop in the list. Those guys, they are safe. They have knowledge. And because, I mean, they are safe, you know exactly what I mean with that.
Yeah.
And part of the salary, 20%, 30% will be paid by the WTA. It will help a lot of girls, that's for sure. But the thing also, Mike, we see that a lot of parents or member of the family are traveling with players, and I understand this because parents are part of the project. Parents, they're there since the beginning, and it's tough to say on one moment, okay, you don't have this certification, you're not allowed to travel with your daughter or with your kid because you don't have the certification. But
sorry, can I clarify that? I agree with that, and that's obviously never going to change. But there's got to be. I'm saying not. There's a certification and a license. So one gives you the coaching education and the certification that you're a WTA certified coach, and the other part is a license that gives you access to the tournaments, to the credentials, to the areas within the tournament. More of that, I think that was the way I was trying to think was, yeah, absolutely. Coaches, players are always going to have parents around as coaches, and that's never going to change. But getting a separation between being licensed and being certified, just so that, like you said, it makes it for a safer environment and a better one. Yeah. But I don't know if that's a real option. I wonder how we can improve. Again, I like to look at other sports, whether it's individual sports, boxing, golf, etc., where they're required these things, and I wonder if we can do a better job with that as well.
Philippe, just from your experiences, are the coaches with players, say in the top 100, which is where your players are, that you were wondering where on earth these people have come from and they just have no idea about coaching? Is that going on?
Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry, Candy.
Yes. Yeah, I was just wondering if you see players that are in the top 100 that have coaches or people that are alongside them that are trying to become or be like a coach that don't have any experience and really are bringing negative problems to the game and to the player. Do you see that?
I will not answer this question, Candy, because I don't know the person and who I am to judge people who are traveling with other players. That's a little bit difficult. But I know how, as Mark said, it's a job. I mean, it's a real job. Tennis, it's about technique and it's very complex. It's about tactic and it's also very complex. It's about physical knowledge. It's about mental knowledge. I mean, you need on one moment to sit down and to say, okay, how this thing is working. I need to understand a little bit what's going on here. So it's not about holding the back and going and clapping the hand and expecting that your player will win. It's more than that. And for sure, nobody has, for many reasons, the competences, and that's okay. It's like this. I mean, the only thing I said is that we face two problems with that. The first one, the level. We stuck a little bit with the level, because if you are traveling with somebody who has no competences, how can you be a better player? I think it's. And point number two, it's also about the security, the mental health of the player. You don't know exactly if the motivation of all those people are health motivation. Well, has one goal, which is just to help the player, etc., because we face a lot of problems every year with that, right? So, yeah, it's a complex question.
I agree. I don't think I would say you would name names of, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, because I'm sure people can point at me and say, what the hell is that he's doing on court? But I think if you look at the tour for the last few years, there is some concerns when you see the stories coming out about players' health, etc., and whether it's physical or mental issues that have been happening on the tour. I do think that I think we could do a better job, although I don't necessarily have the solution. I think that smarter people need to get together and come up with some way of improving it.
Yeah, but when also, not to be completely negative, of course, I'm for sure there is like 20, 25 very, very high level coaches. I mean, a lot of people there are very good. and has a lot of experience. And I always like to. It's tough to talk with other coaches because actually we face the same goals. I mean, and Candy, if we start to talk and sharing and Mark, and then we have to play each other tomorrow, I mean,
Right.
it's not super easy. So it's always tricky till when you start to talk until what's the limit, not to give too much information, etc. But also I realized that it's always interesting. There is a few guys there who traveling since a long time, and the philosophy and the way they see, because we also suffering from we have the same difficulties. I mean, it's a tough world. As Mark said, the level is very high. I mean, you lose every week, and coaches has to manage those things. And maybe this is one point that the WTA has to also realize, that when the player is losing, the team is losing. It's not only about the players, but who takes care of the coaches? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. And it's a tough world. I mean, I'm now traveling since more than 20 years. All the guys from my age who start, they divorce. I'm the only one who stay tomorrow 24 years with my wife. but I think I'm the only one, and I don't know what happened, why me, but it's a crazy life. You spend hours alone, you miss birthday of your kids. I mean, you miss absolutely every social life, exactly the same as the player. The only thing as the player has a bigger salary, and then maybe you can compensate, I don't know. But as coaches, it's a tough world. It's a tough job. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So
I agree.
That is a really, really good point.
Yeah. I know coaches who suffer a lot, really.
Yeah, and then of course there's nothing really for them to go back to, is there? Because their life is on tour. They haven't established that work back home. So jumping into an academy or something like that is not the easiest thing. I'd like to briefly change tack with you, Philippe, because we've had you for almost 50 minutes, and just ask you about the state of Belgian tennis, because of course we've had the likes of, you mentioned her, Justine Henin, who has a fabulous academy there back at home, and Kim Kleister's a former major champion, and Elisa Mertens, who you've worked with, and you mentioned some of the men, Xavier Millis, and then the Rockers brothers. Why is Belgium tennis so strong? It's such a small country, isn't it? Not particularly powerful, but the tennis product seems to be exceptional.
I will point maybe two reasons. The first one, it's popular. We have a lot of tennis courts, a lot of tennis clubs. So people like to play tennis in Belgium. I think football, soccer is number one. Hockey is very famous too, but tennis, you can play easily tennis almost everywhere in Belgium. That's point number one. And of course, point number two, the coach education is on a very good level, and also the system is well organized. Means that if you have a young kid starting with capacity, with potential, the federation will see it very, very early, because a lot of competition, twice a year in the area, federation organize some detection days. So if you bring your kids to those detection days and they're quite good, then they start to be followed by the federation. So you have sometimes extra practice, you are invited for a competition, and then we start very early. So I think that's the two reasons. We have two federations. It's a very small country, but the two federations, they were completely different philosophy, but they have a system who is working, because the French, they made, as you say, Rocus, Oliver Christophe, Steve Darcy, David Goffin, Justine Henin, and then we have Xavier Millis, Christophe Ligue, and young super good who are coming, Alexander Blocks, Sofia Costa.
He's brilliant.
Yes, so both different, but good way of working. So that's I think the two reasons, maybe more, but I need to think about it.
I saw Alexander Blocks actually play in Bologna at the Davis Cup, and I thought he was terrific. He's a man on the move, absolutely. Mark, have you got one more question for Philippe?
Zizo Bergs also.
No, I really appreciate you taking the time. Sorry, I went on longer today than we'd planned, but thanks for coming, and good luck in the off season and in Tenerife, and at home,
Thank you.
and see you in Australia in very soon. It will seem like this off
Thank
season
you.
will go by in a flash.
I
Yeah,
was
just
very happy to share with you.
no,
Thank
it's
you very
brilliant
much.
to have you, Philippe. So obviously, do you have some time off? You said you've got your wedding anniversary coming up, 24 years. Big congratulations for that.
Thank
That's
you.
terrific. And you're going to Tenerife, but do you get a few weeks just to relax with your family now?
Well, I own some tennis schools, so me to in French we say we don't put all the eggs in the same
In
basket.
one basket.
So
Yeah.
I realized that like a few years ago. So to stay independent and completely free in my head, to say, okay, on one moment, if something is wrong with the situation on tour, I want to go back immediately. So this is the reason we develop Your Tennis School. We have like it's social tennis, but we have more than 1,000 students in 4 different kind of tennis schools. So it's a lot of work. I'm working for that administration because I travel a lot. So, but now it's time for me to go everywhere, see the coaches, talking to the parents, and see if everything is all right. I'm working with two other guys in this Your Tennis School Academy. So, and also about sophrology, I help some other in different kind of sports, golf, for example, hockey, high jumping. So I help some young athlete to to become better mental athlete. So I really like it. Yeah.
That's very impressive. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more?
I don't know. You will help me.
Are you on social media?
Yeah, I have an Instagram, but I'm an old guy, so I have, I don't know, 1,000 followers, and I don't know where I have to push. But you can.
Andy, we can put it up on the link with the
Yeah, we'll
description.
put it
We
up
can
on
put
the link.
the Instagram and email, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Philippe, it's been wonderful having you on Diary for Professional Tennis Coach. And we are sponsored by the ERT 300. So if you're watching and listening, please go and check that handy little device out. You can save 10% by putting in tennis podcast in at the websites. Philippe, merci beaucoup. À bientôt.
Merci.
See you in
Merci à
Australia,
vous.
Mark. We'll see you on the next one.
Merci
Thank you
beaucoup.
so much for watching
Thank
Diary of a
you.
Professional Tennis Coach.
Bye bye.